everybody. Welcome to the Talking Disney Classics podcast. And this is a show where we love talking about the Disney canon. And we have a really fun episode for you today. We have one of our dearest friends with us to share his ranking of the Disney canon. We have Mark Brown with us. And this is so much fun to have you on the podcast, Mark. Thank you so much for coming on and talk with us.
Thank you for having me. I've wanted to be on this for a long time, so I'm glad I'm finally able to make it work.
Yeah. And of course, I am film critic Rachel Wagner. Stanford's here.
Hey, how's it going?
Yes, so fun. And this is particularly special because we're coming up pretty close on our 100th episode. And what people might not know is that Stanford and I would not have met without Mark's help. He was kind of our matchmaker when it comes to
I'd
being
like to hear that story.
friends, our friends matchmacher.
A friend maker.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's true. Because we were talking, you were on Twitter at the time, and
Correct.
you and I were talking, and you said, "Do you know Stanford? I think you two would really get along." And I was like, "Who's that?" And no, I have no idea who that is. And he was like, "Oh, he really loves animation. He really loves Disney. He's, great guy." And so then I reached out. I think it was I was the one who reached out first, but anyway, we reached out and we ended up going and seeing a classic screening of All About Eve, and and we and then we came out after and we just talked for like 45 minutes now, like a long time, and we just got along really well, and that was it. The rest is history.
Wow, I don't
well,
remember
and
that, but I'm glad it
Mark,
worked out.
Mark was a very loyal reader and just a great friend when I was the head writer on the Animation Fascination website,
Mhm.
and so he knew a lot of just kind of like my taste and stuff. And then I lived in Salt Lake City, and so that was just a happy connection, and just appreciate you so much, Mark, and appreciate you, Rachel, and so glad we have this conversation.
Yeah.
I think we're privy to Mark's choices. We've seen both have seen his rankings, and I think you've got really cool choices, Mark.
Yeah.
So I'm
Yeah.
I'm really excited to talk with you about them.
Yeah. But
Me
let's
too.
learn a little bit more about your backstory. Like, how did
My
you,
origin story.
yeah, your origin
feel
story.
like-
Yes.
How did you become such an animation fan, and what inspired you to start your own blog?
What? Oh, hello everyone. My name is Ibrahim, aka Mark Brown, and as Rachel said, I have my own. I have two blogs, but the animation one's called Animation Commendation, which I started in 2012, I think it was 2011, 2012, sometime around there.
Yes,
Uh,
you were a
what
little before me.
Yeah, I kind of beat you at that. Haha.
Yeah.
Okay. No,
Yes.
but what started my love for animation, I think, was, just growing up watching animated Disney films, and the age I am, I grew up during the Renaissance, which I think is probably a good age to grow up in, and
Yeah.
I've watched Beauty and the Beast, Lion King, Aladdin. Those were like the ones I would watch a lot. Plus, Snow White, Robin Hood, etc., etc. But Beauty and the Beast, spoiler, it is my number one favorite animated film. But I think everyone knows that, so that's not much of a spoiler. But I think when I would watch these films, I would also like to watch, sometimes the VHS. I don't know how young your audience is, but some of them might know VHS tapes. But some of the
Yeah.
VHS tapes
The
have
puffy
like.
cases.
Yes, exactly. Some of them have like behind the scenes featurettes on them,
Mhm.
and I would love watching that and learning more about the behind the scenes. And that's how I got into studying, quote unquote, studying animation, and more from not just a fan's perspective, but like I love learning the history of the Disney studios and how the Disney films are made. And then that got me into other animation, Pixar and DreamWorks and everything else that was
Mhm.
out there. And I just love seeing cartoons and animations tell stories that I feel live action couldn't have.
Mhm.
And I think that I guess all that together sparked my interest in animation. And uh, just fast forward to 2011 or 2012, whenever it was, and I kind of wanted to share my love for animation with others. And this was kind of I don't think social media was as big then as it was now. I think it was still, growing at that time. So the only way I could think of doing this was by making a blog. I had discovered another blogger who was like going through the Disney canon, and that kind of inspired me to, hey, you know what? Maybe I could make a blog and talk with other people about not just the Disney canon, but animation. And that's when I started the animation combination, and it's still going. So
Yeah. How did you get the idea to do the obscure character idea?
because I didn't grow I didn't consider myself a film critic. I didn't think I was good enough to actually criticize a film or say the pros and cons or talk about it from a unbiased opinion. As so I didn't want to review the Disney canon. I know I wanted to
Mm-hmm.
go through the Disney canons. I wanted to think of what else could I do to pay tribute to the Disney canon. And I thought, well, here's something no one's ever done. Somehow or another, I came up with the idea. I'm gonna watch every movie in the Disney canon up to that point. I think it was Wreck-It Ralph or whatever. And I'm going
Mm-hmm.
to pick a forgotten or minor character from each film and talk about that character. And I like
Mm-hmm.
doing that. And actually
Mm-hmm.
doing that is how I got my all my subscribers. My subscriber count from the beginning of that project to the end is was the max of my subscribers through that. And we had a lot of conversations in the comments and stuff. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I
Yeah.
like doing that.
Well, and you've always been good about commenting on others' uh blogs. I
Well,
am,
exactly.
yeah.
He was, as I said, I just felt like Mark was like my most loyal reader when I was writing for Animation Fascination because he was always so good about commenting. And I hope you know how much I still appreciate that,
Yeah.
Mark. That meant a
Uh,
lot.
yeah, I
I
think
really
I don't
do.
know how much I read, but I know I definitely would like every article and comment something about it. So
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to support everyone that I could.
Yeah. I
You did
appreciate it
a
too.
wonderful job.
I
Thank you.
do.
You're welcome.
What do you think that you particularly take away when you watch? What's the value in watching the whole canon? 'Cause some people, oh, I don't want to do the package films. I don't want to. Why do
Yeah.
you think's the value in going through from start to finish?
I think at heart I consider myself a historian, so I like watching something from start to finish to know just to see historically, okay, what's
Yeah.
going on here? How is animation getting better? How is it getting worse? What's in play behind the scenes that's affecting the output of these certain films in these certain eras? And also at heart, I'm somewhat of a completionist too. As I get older, I'm not. It's kind of going down, but I was somewhat of a completionist where, like, if I'm reading a book series, I would want to read the entire book series, even if I hated the
Hmm.
first film. Or if I'm watching a film trilogy, I would want to watch all three films, even if I hated the first. Now, not so much. I'm just getting
Hmm.
older, and I don't have the patience. But I think that's also another um
Yeah.
reason for that.
Well, and I really just think looking at the Disney Corporation, uh it's a real good kind of object lesson of the history of America,
That is very
of
true.
what's been happening, and it's very interesting to kind of look at it as a package, and
So
yeah, it's worth going through even the not as good ones.
No, definitely. And something I tell people all the time is like Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs came out in 1937. Like if you went to a random kid nowadays or person nowadays and just said, "Hey, let's watch a movie from 1937," they might look at you
Yeah.
unless they're, film buffs, they might look at you with a raised eyebrow like, "What's
Oh,
wrong with you?"
yeah.
But
Right.
but
It's true.
but the just how powerful Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs is that it's still relevant, not just relevant, but still beloved nowadays.
Yeah.
That just shows just how high class of filmmaking that film was.
Yeah. That's true. That's a very good point. Very good point.
Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs is older than my grandparents. That's how old it is.
Yeah.
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 Mhm.
Hmm. Yeah. What do you think, Stanford, about watching the whole canon? What do you think?
Oh, everybody should do it. Anybody who's a Disney fan should do it. I think it's just so interesting to see the differences in the film and the time period, kind of the progression of the art form, and uh, some films are harder to watch than others, but
Yeah.
still, though, I think it's a really it's a great thing to do. You know,
Yeah,
I've I think I
I
know for sure
agree.
I've done it formally twice, but I've seen all these films multiple times, but not necessarily just like in a with a planned
Yeah.
strategy. You know,
Yeah,
um,
and then we did it, but we did it in non-chronological, the random number generator.
which
That's a
was
fun
really
way.
fun. I was
Yeah.
just gonna bring that
It
up,
was fun.
Rachel.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it was a fun way to do it because I'd already done it chronologically twice at that point. So I was like, well, there's gotta be some way to kind of keep it fresh. Plus, I just felt like it would be kind of a drag as a podcaster if every time for like 2 months, we were, or longer, because we were only doing once a month to start, it was, in one of these rough patches. Like it would just be, of course, the random number generator did leave like almost all the package films were together, and like, which is
yeah.
crazy.
It had it out for us. I think.
Yeah.
If I remember correctly, I think one of the first ones you guys had to do was like Home on the Range or
Yeah,
Chicken
that
Little
was,
or
I think,
something.
yeah, that was in the first five for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh.
Cinderella was our first, and that we did, and then
That's
yeah,
a good one to start with.
that was
Yes,
it.
we went from like one of the best to one of the worst.
Yeah.
That's how it rolls.
Well, let's talk about your bottom five, and then we'll do your top 10. And
Okay.
I wanted to make sure I thought these were sort of your I thought your picks were very unique, which is what you want to see for an interesting podcast. And you particularly have quite a few recent ones, and Stanford and I have talked a lot about our problems and our frustrations with current Disney. How do you feel, Mark, about that? And I guess if they were going to ask you for advice, what's one of the big things you would say?
We just need to scratch the whole animation department from and start over from scratch. I think is the best advice I got. But
Mm,
yeah, I think we talked about this recently, Al, also
yeah,
about not having faith in what Disney is doing right now in terms, at least in terms of their output. May like there could be a factor that I'm just old and not young as I used to be, but I don't think so. I think there is a definite discernible drop in quality of the films they put out in the
yeah,
recent years compared to some in the past. I know, around Princess and the Frog, Tangled at the time we were going into it, what they call the Disney revival era, but I'm pretty sure we're out of that era for a long, and we have been for a long time, and we're still going even deeper. I'm scared and also somewhat hopeful that we need we need like another Don Bluth type of event where another company is gonna be producing even more better and more quality and successful
yeah,
animated films and maybe that will light the fire under the Disney
yeah.
executives like, okay, we need to
And
shake this up.
I don't know if it's necessarily going to be one particular company, but just the
Correct.
movement
Yeah.
as a whole.
Hmm.
When you have films like Spider-Verse and Puss in Boots: The Last Wish and Blase Miyazaki, things like that, Boy and the Heron, when you have collectively, even Robot Dream, something like that, that's so good. Like collectively, they are just wiping Disney completely out. It's not even close. The
Correct.
quality of those films that I just mentioned compared to what Disney has been releasing,
Hands
and
down. Yeah.
and and so I if that's not enough to kind of wake them up, this robot one looks so good coming up this year.
Oh
I'm
yes,
really
yes,
hopeful
it
for
does. Yeah.
that. From DreamWorks.
The Wild
I don't
Robot.
know
Yeah.
what will. If that doesn't, I don't know. But something's got to eventually.
Something's got it
Um,
because the other option is they just keep going downer and downer
yeah.
until they have to go.
I mean, Stanford and I have talked about it, that I would not be surprised at all if it gets sold,
Yeah.
if it gets bought by Apple. It's been talked about. There's rumors been for years and years, and it just feels like, why not? What would be stopping Apple at this point? Like,
Mhm.
how could the capital be any lower? how can it be any like, I don't know. I just think they got to be, if they're not going to do it, they've got to be thinking about it at least.
Yeah.
It's got to be out there. There's no way that they're not.
And it'll
in
be a
the
very sad day
conversation.
when
Yeah.
Disney gets sold. But I mean, like you said, sometimes that's just gotta happen.
Yeah, it's interesting. But let's dive in. Let's talk about your number 62, your last in the ranking. What
Last
is
in the ranking.
what is your number? What's your last?
I'm so sad I put this as my number last, but it's sadly the most recent in the canon. Wish.
Yeah.
This film was so disappointing on so many levels. As you know, I don't really go to the theater that often. Usually, I wait till films come on DVD or nowadays streaming and then watch it. But this was one that I was thinking about going to the theaters to see because it's the 100th anniversary
Yeah.
film. Maybe this would look nice on a screen. I'm so glad I did not pay money to see this on a big screen.
I saw it twice.
You saw it twice.
I
So
did.
sorry.
Well, I mean, one time it was just the critic screening, but still, yeah. Because I had to. I didn't take notes the first time, and
Okay.
we were doing our episode,
Mhm.
so I was like, oh, I got to see it twice to take notes.
You have strength.
Which is such a bummer. I mean, talk about
Yeah,
torture.
It was. It was such a bummer.
It's
And
such a
I think
bad
the
film.
first time I saw it, I kind of made some excuses, and I mean, I still wasn't fresh on it or anything, but then that second time, I was just like, I never have to see this movie ever again. Like,
Yeah, there's some
there's
movies
nothing.
there are some movies that the only reason I watch them is if I'm doing a Disney Canon review, and this is
Mm-hmm.
rewatch, and this is going to be one of them. I'm never
Yeah.
going to watch Wish again on my own for any reason besides that.
I mean, Stammer, how do you feel about that, having this at the bottom?
Well, I think it's an interesting choice, but I don't fault it at all. Because it's a terrible film, and yeah, it's one of those. The further I get away from it, the more angry I get about it. Because
Mhm.
I was talking to a friend. I was at Phoenix Comic-Con last weekend. I presented at some panels for it, and it one of the people I was talking with there was saying that if Disney hadn't like promoted so much, like, oh, this film is celebrating the 100th anniversary of our studio, if they just released it, it might not have caused so much anger, and that it's an interesting point. I don't know if it's true because I think we still would say that it sucks, but
Yeah, I actually I disagree with that.
but still, that there was some expectation, and then also because all of it got so bogged down with all those Easter eggs and all this
That's
stuff.
the thing, is that it wasn't just about the marketing; it was actually worked into the film itself.
Yeah.
So so it became the tribute to 100 years was part of the movie, and I think that they really. It's too bad that Ralph Breaks the Internet couldn't have been around the same time, because I think that would have been the space to be like, to do all the wink, 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 kind of.
Right.
Or something like that.
Mhm.
But they didn't even need to do that because they had Once Upon a Studio anyway. And so they could have just had that be the short ahead of the movie, and you would have gotten all your 100 years feels, and there you go. Like, that's all you need.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I guess the way that I feel about Wish, the more I've thought about it, I kind of think maybe I might have it at the bottom as well. Because
it's gonna keep moving for me,
because the thing is that something like Chicken Little is undeniably weak in the story, in the characters. Buck Cluck is the worst, but at least it's memorably bad. I struggle to remember anything about Wish. It is so bland. And I just think, would I rather watch something that's memorably bad, that swings and misses, or would I rather watch something that is just total vanilla? I don't know. So I get it. I get your placement. I really do. I really do. I thought about it myself.
There's it. Like, even if we take out the, this is the 100th anniversary tribute. I mean, take out the Easter eggs. I still think this is a horrible, horrible film. I think the story is weak and incredibly bland, like you say. The first 10 to 15 minutes are like extremely exposition heavy, and it still took me longer than I should have to understand how this whole wish granting system works. And I feel that uh, even with that, I had questions like, okay,
Yeah, because
if the subjects are giving the king the wishes, are they technically the kings now? So technically, he doesn't have to answer all of them if he doesn't want to. I don't know. It
well,
just
and it seemed like her
confused me.
grandfather was a very loving, kind person. So
Yeah,
how did his wish getting taken hurt him at all?
exactly. The animation style, that was all. I also hated that. Like it just looked unfinished.
Mm.
And the biggest problem for me, I think, was the songs, the lyrics especially. Oh my goodness. Especially I'm a Star or whatever that's called.
Yeah, that one was.
Once
Oh
as
yeah.
soon as that song
All
came
the
on,
music really brings it down too. Yeah.
none of that was lyrics. Literally everything was word vomit. That was all it is. I feel so bad saying this. I know somebody worked hard and got paid for this, but I don't want to hurt their feelings. But gosh, I could have written better songs for Wish.
Yeah. Oh, it's true. I mean,
I used to hate Fixer Upper in Frozen, but now compared to Wish, Fixer Upper is like a masterpiece.
Yeah.
Not,
it's
not
true.
Yeah.
if anyone can look at the lyrics of of I'm a Star and tell me what the heck this means line by line, if there's any coherence, if there's any meaning to these words, I will pay
Yeah.
you $100.
Yeah.
You heard it here first, folks.
You heard it here first.
I I can't take that challenge. That's for sure.
Yeah.
It's bad. It's bad.
Yeah.
I mean,
Mhm.
what were they thinking?
This is a movie that there are very few movies that I wish were never ever made, and this is one of them. Like I kind of wish they just didn't make this movie at all. That's how
Yeah.
Yeah.
horribly I dislike it.
Yeah. I get it.
Yeah, I get it. Ultimately it's all just kind of a heartbreaker. Rachel's heard me this, and we don't need to be bogged down by my sadness over the whole thing, but it really depresses me because I just feel like there's got to be still some of this great talent at Walt Disney Animation Studios that's either suppressed or something. You know what I mean? That
Yeah.
because it's happened before. You hope that something can revive it, and they can and get resuscitated and create something great again. I don't think we're going to have that for a while, if ever, but I can at least be grateful that we had it at least at some point or a couple points. But
Yeah, you're right. We've had a
we're,
renaissance. We've had a
we're,
revival.
They've always
So-
found a
and,
way to dig themselves out of it. It's just
and
it's
I
hard
don't
to feel.
know.
It's hard to feel that hope when you've got Toy Story 5 and Frozen 3 and Frozen
And
4
or
and
Moana
Moana
2.
2 and Moana 2 and they're making a Ray movie, a Mandalorian movie. Are you kidding me? It's tough.
You've got to have money. This is a quote
Well,
from
and
commentary number.
so much for quality is the best business plan
Mufasa.
because it's just all
And
it's so depressing. It's so depressing if you're
and they're
making
not
movies.
making money. That's the thing.
Well,
You're right.
exactly.
Yeah, you're right. It's
And
bad. But speaking of that, what do you have at number 61?
Speaking of that, number 61, I have I think it's the second most recent one, actually, Strange
Yes.
World. So yeah,
Yeah.
the last two movies haven't been good for me. There's nothing I really liked about Strange World. I found the story again uninteresting and weak. I didn't care about any of the characters. I found them kind of bland. The animation felt lackluster. The world building felt like an oversight.
Obvious.
I don't know. There was nothing I enjoyed about Strange World.
The big reveal was so cringe. It was so bad. And they were like, I honestly think they all thought we were going to be like, oh, what? That's an eye, and you're just
I just am shaking my head. I have no comments. It's like it's so true. Like,
Yeah.
oh, that movie was so bad.
and it was so mean spirited. I thought. I mean, all the characters spent fighting the entire movie.
Mm-hmm.
My favorite scene in the movie, in an explorer movie, was the scene where they're all stuck in the closet and the dogs
Okay.
outside. Like that shouldn't be my favorite scene.
In an adventure film,
Yeah,
exactly
an
like
adventure.
Mhm.
film. But yeah, I get
That's like
it.
if your favorite
Just
scene in Indiana Jones movie is like when he's, shaving in front of a mirror or something.
yeah,
Yeah,
it's just was so disappointing. Again,
yeah.
hoping for a really fun adventure movie, and yeah, it didn't work. I didn't think it worked.
Are you a fan of Rachel's reviews? Do you look forward to Family Movie Night, Female Film Critics panels, or the Talking Disney podcast? If so, please consider supporting the podcast by becoming a Patreon. As a patron, you get to access monthly events such as the watch-alongs and Q&As, where you get to talk to stars and find out the behind the scenes of the movie making industry. And you can pick what I review for Family Movie Night or even become a guest on the podcast. Podcasts and YouTube channels are expensive, and I really, really could use your help. I would so appreciate it. You also get to be a member of the Facebook group where we talk about all the films that we're seeing, and we have so much fun. Go to patreon.com/hallmarkies and select one of the Rachel's fan tiers. That's patreon.com/hallmarkies. What do you have at 60?
This is the one that I get in trouble for, but this is the one that most people knew famously was my least favorite Disney Canon film, and it was for years until Strange World and Wish came out. So congratulations, you've helped with this film. But again, just to remind everyone, this is my list of my favorites to my least favorites. It doesn't necessarily mean the film is bad. It's just I don't like it, and sadly, it's Fantasia.
Uh-huh.
My biggest problem, it just bores me. It's like 2 hours long, and I every time I watch this film, and again, I only watch this film when I'm doing a Disney Channel rewatch. I just get bored with most of the segments, except Sorcerer's Apprentice. I like that, and maybe a little bit of Night and Bald Mountain, but everything else, I'm just kind of. Sometimes even watching it, I'm like fast forward just to get through it, but it really just bores me. If it was shorter, I might like it better. Maybe if also I'm not really into instrumental music. If there were actually characters singing songs, maybe that would make me like it. But I understand it's an important piece of animation, and most people love it, and it's art and all that. But it just bores me.
Yeah,
You can kill me now.
it's as shocking as your bad review of Pollyanna, but
I'll
it's
never
okay.
get
We
over
can
that
still be friends.
Uh,
For those who don't
Yeah.
know, I also have a live action Disney blog, and one of the running jokes on that is because I use a rubric to grade the films, and because I was kind of new to the rubric system, I kind of ended up getting Pollyanna a bad review. So I have a hard time
How
shaking
dare you?
off that.
I love your rubric though, Mark. I really think it's fantastic how you
Thanks.
rank these films. I think
I like
it,
to tease him about it.
but yeah, I was gonna say I can tell the Pollyanna is
Now,
a bit of a sore spot.
Pollyanna and the Love Bug. I think those are the two I've got the most comments about. Those are the two like I would have to rewatch to please people.
You've had people get after you.
But yeah, I mean, I guess I can kind of understand. I like classical music, so I just appreciate. I get caught up in it, and to me, it's like it's just such a unique, more of like a concert experience. Like if I was going to the symphony or something like that, and so that it's just kind of exciting for me because it's just so different than any other movie experience that you're going to have. But I it's not like fast paced, so I can understand. I can
Yeah,
understand.
it's just not for me.
Yeah, that's fair enough. Fair
Like
enough.
Yeah,
It's
that's
like
I would
me
go
and
fair.
to a
it's like
symphony.
me and Dune. I was just telling people, it's
Oh,
just not for me. Like it's
no,
well done.
I hate the first Dune. That bored the heck out of me. I don't even
It's
want to watch the second one because of how
it's
much that bored me.
it's well made for what it is. Like it's just not for me. It's
Mhm.
not made for me, and that's fine. I hated the book. It was one of the worst books I've ever read. It just and millions of people love it, and that's great. And I think that it's okay to have that experience as a movie fan.
I
But
love classical
yeah,
music, and so I think that really adds to my love and
yeah.
appreciation for Fantasia. But yeah, I'm not throwing any shade on you, friend, my friend.
No, I understand. If I was into classical music more, maybe like I'd probably like it more. But like
Hmm.
again, no, it's not for.
Yeah. Well, what do you have next up?
next, I gotta look at my list. Next I have Melody Time, and this one is kind of like a Pollyanna situation where it's like it's only here because it's a package film. If it wasn't, it would probably be a little higher. But it's one of the package films where there's a few segments, and some of them I do like. Like I do like Pico's Bill and Little Two is probably my favorite one, but Pico's Bill and John Appleseed I do like some stuff of it. But most of the segments I also find kind of
Do you like it more
uninteresting.
than Fun and Fancy Free though, huh?
I know I like Fun and Fancy Free more.
I mean, that's what I'm saying. Yeah. Oh, that's
Yeah, I
what I
wish
mean.
I
Yeah,
was
you're
gonna
right.
say
Yeah,
that.
Yeah.
Kind of surprised
Switched
me.
it around.
Yeah, no, because I actually when I rewatched Fun and Fancy Free, I liked it a lot more than I remember. Like I don't like the
Okay.
bongo segment, that one
Yeah.
drags, but like the other segment, I really like. I like Edgar
Mm.
Bergen. I like seeing him. I like Jiminy Cricket. I love the Jack and the Mickey and the Beanstalk part of it. So
Yeah. Cool. Good.
yes,
Okay. And then your last of these bottom five, what do you have?
Frozen 2.
Mm-hmm.
This is a film that, to me, and I think to most people, this was made just to make money. There was no other reason for Frozen 2 being made. I find the story very complicated, and
Mm-hmm.
like we have both there's these spirits that are kind of in charge of stuff in the forest, but then there's also the Northuldra people, and I feel they could have kind of just picked one instead of the other. I feel having both kind of overcomplicates things, and but at the same time, the story is complicated because of that. At the same time, I think the story is also barely a story.
Mm-hmm.
But there is two things I really like about Frozen 2, which is the two songs, which Into the Unknown and Lost in the
Mm-hmm.
Woods. I adore those
Yes.
two songs.
Lost
I
in the
love those two
Woods.
songs more than any song, even from the first Frozen movie.
Mm-hmm.
So that's
Yeah.
that's the only good thing I got out. Well, the water animation is also kind of nice, but
Yeah.
those are really the two things I love about Frozen 2. Besides that, I
Mm-hmm.
couldn't care less. I definitely couldn't care less about Frozen 3 and 4.
Yeah, I enjoy Frozen 2. I don't think it's better than the first one, like some people said.
Mhm.
But I do like that they ended with both of them being queens. I thought that was fun. And the but I think it's when Disney was obsessed with generational trauma. Every story had to be generational trauma. It was an interesting wrinkle on it to have it be
I mean, I
this
don't even think we're out of
ancestor.
that period yet.
Oh gosh, I hope so. Because I'm just like with I last time I saw Encanto, I was just like, that's it. There's nothing else to tell. You did it. That's as
Exactly.
good as you can tell that story.
Mhm.
And I just between Coco and Kanto and Frozen 2, I just feel like and even Strange World, that's it. Like there's no other stories. Like, I don't know. I just that's how I feel.
He could only milk trauma for so long.
Yeah. And
Like
then you have to
we want a
tell
bad guy, a real villain.
it becomes it becomes tired, it becomes unmoving because it's just like we've already seen it done better
Hmm.
by you.
I
Yeah, yeah.
So I don't know, but it's an interesting pick for your, but I'm glad to see that you do love Lost in the Woods because
And yeah, and
and
Into
Into
the
the
Unknown,
Unknown.
because
Yeah.
I'm with you.
yeah.
Those
Mhm.
songs are great.
I sing that to myself just randomly. So I love those two songs so much.
Yeah,
Other
so
I
songs, no,
like Frozen. Oh, go ahead, please. Sorry, Mark.
no, I was saying those are the only two songs I like from Frozen 2.
I think I like the film, of course, a little better, but um, yeah, I hear what you're saying, and I'm mostly just dreading that we're gonna get all these like
yeah,
Frozen sequels. It's like make it stop. It's so gross.
yeah.
It's so and I'm with you. Frozen 2 was made from was just a pure money grab
Mhm.
with some artistic excellence and with a lot of just kind of yeah.
Well, I guess I was when I was most disappointed by it, even though I did overall enjoy it, is that all the new characters are all underused. I'm barely in
Correct.
it. They it's like they needed just to make a doll,
Yeah, that
and
was it.
that was it. That what was her name? Honeysuckle or whatever. Anyway, that one girl.
And Sterling K. Brown and
Yeah, barely in
yeah,
it. Barely in it.
his
The
And
guy,
character.
John
yeah.
Ritter's son. I forget his name.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, let's be positive
Let's
now.
be
Let's talk
positive, shall
about your
we?
top 10. And I have to
Oh, are we
say,
gonna move up to the top
that
10?
this top 10, it surprised me. There are a couple on here that I did not know you were so high on or I'd forgotten. So
That
let's
should be
dive
fun.
in. What is your number 10?
This should be fun. Yeah, this will be more fun to talk about because I like these movies. I actually love these
Yes.
movies.
Yeah,
I
so
kind
I'm
of
happy.
divided my list into love movies I love, movies I like a lot, movies I like a little, and movies I don't like. So in the top 10, we're getting into the ones I love. So
All
number
right.
10 is Alice in Wonderland. I
Yeah.
adore this movie
I didn't know
because
you were so high on Alice in
Yeah,
Wonderland.
I didn't either, which I thought was great. Tell us
well,
about
Yeah.
it.
funny enough, it actually dropped compared to the last ranking I did, where I had this as
Oh,
my number two. So it technically dropped, but it's still in top 10. I love that. I love nonsense, and I love witty, and I love Alice in Wonderland type stories, like Alice in
mhm.
Wonderland, Oz, Phantom Tollbooth. I love that kind of
Spirited
stuff.
Away, things like that.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So I love the delightful nonsense in this film. I love the colors, the all the characters. I want to go and hang out with the Cheshire Cat. I want to sing "We're Painting the Roses Red" with the cards. I want to go have a tea party with the Mad Hatter and the March Hare. I love the voice acting. I
Yeah.
especially love how frustrated Alice keeps getting the longer she remains in it and realizes how idiotic everything is. There's just something funny about that.
Mhm.
Like I just adore
Mhm.
this movie.
Yeah. This is the most ridiculous tea I've ever been to.
Mustard, don't let's be silly. I can't do
Yeah.
it.
You
Yeah,
know,
I
I
love it too.
love,
I mean, that Mary Blair artwork is just
yeah, say it's the
amazing.
animation for me. I get a little frustrated with the story, but I just love the look of this movie so
Hmm.
much.
Yeah.
I don't think it's a film that needs a story because it's just Alice exploring Wonderland, and I think
Hmm.
that's we get what we want.
Yeah, it's one of those movies that I have to be in the right mood for.
Mhm.
Like I have to just be in a mood for that kind of nonsense, I guess. And it's just because it's moved around a bit in my rankings. Sometimes it'll be really
I
high and I'll
remember
be
you
really
telling me
feeling
that,
it,
yeah.
and then other times it will be a little bit lower. But I always admire the artistry, no matter what.
And a
Yeah.
shout out to one of our mutual friends, Jonathan North. He has on his podcast, he does
Yes.
every version ever. And I know this is one of the first ones he started with, trying to watch as many Alice in Wonderland adaptations as he can. But
Mhm.
so when I was talking about it with him, we were talking something about Alice in Wonderland, and then it hit me like the only Alice in Wonderlands I had seen up to that point were this one and the Tim Burton remakes. I hadn't seen any other ones.
Oh, that's too bad that you'd seen that Tim Burton one.
Yes. Well, I have the blog, so.
There's
Yeah, that's right.
yeah,
When that came
there's
out in 2010, I thought, hey, Disney can keep making live action remakes of the animated films. They gotta stop sometime,
Oh,
right? Right? Right?
they will.
Right? Here
you
we are
didn't know
14
that they
years
would be
later.
soon be remaking in live action a movie that hadn't even been released yet
Very
in
true.
2010. Now they're making the Moana live action. You're just like, oh my gosh.
Moana 2 plus Moana live action. Like, I don't know, we'll
Yeah.
be Moana'd out, I think.
Well,
Yeah,
we're
way
in
to run
trouble.
that into the ground.
Maybe when
Uh
Disney gets sold, maybe whoever buys them will stop. Will stop. Well, the
It'll be
yeah,
like,
kind
remakes.
of like the cheap quills when
it'll be
John
like,
Lasseter
yeah,
Yeah.
took
that's what I
over.
was thinking about, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, a good
Uh,
question you could cut this out, I don't know, but a good question I had is like, which hurt, offend or angers you more, the live action remakes of animated films or the direct to video sequels? Which, if you could cut one out of existence, which would you cut out?
I'm
mm,
so glad you brought that up because I've been thinking about that very question.
Oh,
Seriously.
I can read
Um,
your mind.
I
mm,
know. And that's a tough one because the cheapos made me so mad because I just felt both of them I feel cheapen the brand and
mhm.
cheapen the original film, or disrespect the original
Yeah.
film.
Mhm.
Uh,
I think
I
for
would
me, sorry,
say
go ahead.
I,
Yeah.
I would say I would get rid of the live action because it not only are they all the things that Stanford just said, cheapening the originals, they're just incredibly frustrating, but they actually like cheapen animation as a whole. They make people think that somehow this through their own marketing, they make somehow think that they're upgrading it, they're modernizing it, they're revolutionizing it, they're and making they have to put down the there was never any sense. No one in their right mind thought that Hunchback of Notre Dame 2 was somehow going to be an upgrade over Hunchback. You always knew that these were kind of trash. But the way with these live action, they try to pretend for just the period that they're being released, and then they forget about them instantly. But they try to pretend that they're somehow upgrading, updating, modernizing. So I think even though I would say there's probably more successful live action than there were successful cheap goals, I still think as a whole they've hurt animation more
No,
than the cheap
yeah, go
goals
ahead.
did.
No, I 100% agree with you for the exact same reason. I feel these live action remakes are done to put down animation and to tell the audience, hey, live action is if it's something live action, that's a real movie. Before that was just like
Yeah.
cartoony stuff. Now it's real, even though, all of Lion King is technically animated, and the remake, I mean, and all of Beauty and the Beast remake is technically animated, but if it's
Yeah.
live action, now it's a real honest to goodness film. Like this is real cinema. And so that's why I would
Yeah.
get rid of the live action
They had
remakes
Yeah,
too.
I would concur.
Yeah, they
Because
had the
also,
CEO of Walt Disney at one point saying that, oh, parents, they put the Little Mermaid on for kids, and then they watch the live action, after. It's just like, are you kidding me right now? Like one of your treasures?
yeah.
Yes, it's sad.
Sorry, I didn't mean
You
to
you
interrupt.
bring up a good point. And also, these live action, quote unquote, live action, I like to call it the faux realistic CGI remake,
Yeah,
right?
Yeah.
They are, yeah, they're like remaking, retelling these stories where the sequels were sequels.
correct. Yeah,
Yeah.
They weren't like retelling the original. They were just some kind of a continuation of the story with, bad stories and bad animation.
yeah.
But
They knew their place.
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
They were kind of
So
like
good. Yeah,
they were
I
kind
agree
of
with you
like
both.
fan fiction. They were kind of like a fan fiction.
We'd like to take a second and thank our sponsor for this episode of the podcast. It's the Hallmarkies merch store.
Are you looking for that perfect gift for the postable, hardy, or Hallmarky in your life?
What about getting that t-shirt or hoodie that will help you stand out at your next holiday party?
Now is the time to check out the Hallmarkies merch store.
Full of festive designs by artists like Jessica Miller, Carrie from Hallmark Comics, and more.
You can even have more than just shirts, but totes, cell phone cases, notebooks, mugs, and more.
And it isn't just Hallmark. We have designs for Anna Green Gables, Man from Snowy River, The Nanny, and more.
Every purchase at the merch store goes to help support the podcast and allows us to make the great content you know and love.
There are frequent sales, so go to tpublic.com/stores/hallmarkies or see the link in the description.
That's tpublic.com/stores/hallmarkies.
So, what is your number 9?
My number 9 is I gotta look at my list. No, 9 is Robin Hood.
Yeah.
This has always been a favorite of mine. This is a film that after I got into the blogging world and I would look at people who would rate the Disney canon, I feel a lot of people would have this in like their bottom 10. And it always surprised me because this was a favorite of mine since childhood. I love the characters, I love the songs, I love the animation, and I love the lines in the film. Like this is to me is the most quotable Disney film. I quote this film like on a daily basis. The Phony King of England is one of my favorite Disney songs of all time, and the jailbreak scene is one of my 2 favorite Disney segments of all time. Like this is just a pleasure overall, and if it wasn't for some of the slower scenes, I would put it higher. But yeah, I adore Robin Hood.
Mm-hmm. It's one of my it might be my dad's favorite. This or the Jungle Book are definitely his favorite Disney movie. So we watched it a
Sounds
lot.
like my dad too.
Yeah, we watched it a lot. I have a lot of nostalgia for it. And it's
I love it too.
A lot of fun. Yeah. It's a good choice. All right. Well, what do you have at 8?
8 is the one that started it all, Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. I mean, you can't have the Disney canon without this one. And
yeah,
for the first film, it's a classic for a reason. It's amazing. It's the characters and are amazing, especially the dwarfs and the queen. They're the best. I love Snow White, and I defend her from the Disney princess haters who have nothing good to say about her. And I hate that we have a sequel, not a sequel, a live action remake coming up, but we can't do anything about that. The animation is beautiful. It's action packed at times. The song, I love the songs. Even some of the dialogue is like rhymey, which I didn't realize until this rewatch. I just like, yeah, it's Snow White. It's amazing.
Yeah. I mean, and I think what makes it really special, aside from the incredible animation, is it gives you every emotion. It's got sad parts, it's got scary
Sure.
parts, it's got funny parts, it's got like, what else could you want in a movie?
Very true.
Yeah.
It
I
has
know you
It's
have
a
it high.
magnificent film. Yeah, I love where you placed it, Mark. And I just echo both of your sentiments. It's such a magnificent film, and I think it created the genre and set the standard,
Yeah.
and I think it still holds up, perfectly to this day. And I'm absolutely disgusted that they've done a remake, but we'll just we'll just have to let that one be.
Yeah. What do you have at 7?
7, I have Pinocchio,
Yeah.
which is their second film, which again is also really great. I love the animation, especially in this film. I love from how the puppets are animated, to the cuckoo clocks, to how the glass breaks, to how the donkeys transform, to the underwater scenes with Monstro. Like, this film is like the animators showing off the best stuff that they could do.
Yeah.
I love all the characters, especially all the villains that Pinocchio comes across, and I love Jiminy Cricket. He's like my favorite Disney sidekick, probably. You buttered your bread, now sleep in it. That's my favorite line in that film.
You have a pretty good Jiminy Cricket there.
Oh, thanks.
I
That was
know.
good. That was
Mark.
good.
I thought so. I gotta add it to my impressions list.
Yeah,
For sure.
it's one that had to grow on me just because it was a little scary for me as a kid,
Okay.
especially the
fair enough.
donkeys. But yeah, I mean, it's a
Yeah,
masterpiece.
because you never see those donkeys again, so there's some, like, they just been sent away for
Yeah, they just-
labor.
the salt mines.
Yeah.
They go.
Oh,
Yeah,
that's what happens.
yeah. What do you think of the Del Toro one? Did you ever see that?
I did. I liked it a lot. I don't think
Yeah.
I loved it as much as everyone else, but like it's still really good. But it's not
Yeah.
like, I still would prefer this version over that.
Yeah, I probably would too. But it
Mhm.
was certainly much better than that Disney
Same.
Oh yeah, I mean that's not even a question.
one. Yeah,
Oh,
it is bad. All right, what do you have at 6?
6 is, surprisingly, this is the film that the last time I did this ranking in 2014 or whenever, this was also number 6, so like it stayed the same spot. The Hunchback
Okay.
of Notre Dame. This film is gorgeous animation. If you had to pick
Yeah.
one film where the animation is just gorgeous, it's this. From how the Notre Dame looks, the inside, the outside, the people, the backgrounds, the animation is gorgeous, and I love I love Alan Menken and Steven Schwartz songs. Like, they're all amazing. This has one of the best villains ever, Frollo. And instead of giving us those twist villains that we had at one point
Yeah.
later on, and then we went into having no villains, which is probably worse. So I don't know, but Frollo's up there at one of the best villains. I think my only issue with the film is, I feel, when you think about it, not much happens in the film. I think the entire plot of the film only takes place over like a day or two, if I'm not mistaken. So I think maybe could have just had like a little more stuff go on, but besides that, like, no, I love this movie.
So you're not too bothered by the gargoyles?
No, I mean, I understand that they're annoying, but there's more annoying ones. I think they don't bother me that much.
Cool. Yeah, I mean, it is beautiful. There's no doubt. And Out There,
I
that's one of
did.
the greats. That's a great song.
I used to hate the song, the gargoyles sing "A Guy Like You," until I watched a YouTuber. I don't know if you know her on Twitter, Amanda Gabriel, but she and her friends did like a live action reenactment singing this song, and that kind of made me rethink that, oh, you know what, it's not actually that bad of a song. So they kind of helped me change my mind in that song.
Cool. It's like a serviceable Alan Menken song.
Correct.
Its placement is what is the problem. Like,
Yeah.
in the movie, it's actually kind of mean what they do to him in that song. They build up his expectations, and it's just tonally so off. But yeah, I mean, I can see how, I mean, like, it is a perfectly serviceable song on its own.
Yeah, very much.
Yeah.
Way better than anything Wish could do.
Yeah. Not behind that.
Right.
Yes.
Hunchback is such a beautiful film, and there's so much I like about it. With Rachel and I have talked about a lot. It's the uneven tone is what's hard. I think that's like probably the main thing that's
makes it
Yeah.
lower on my list, but still,
fair enough. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's there's a lot of amazing stuff in that movie.
I still don't want a live action remake of it.
I mean, I guess at least with that, it would just be another telling of the book. There's been so many.
Yeah, there's been so many, right?
And so at least like that would be a little bit more palatable. But
it would be like Cinderella and Beauty and the Beast, I think. The same kind of thing.
Yeah. Well, what do you have at 5?
We're in our top 5 now. Number 5 is Aladdin. This one is just it's just enjoyable. I mean, it's enjoyable. It's fun. It's romantic. I love the characters. The songs are amazing. Again, Alan Menken and Howard Ashman or Tim Rice for some of them. The animation's amazing. The voice acting. I mean, Robin Williams as Genie, like top. That is the top in the top voice acting performances of all time. Like, that is you can't get better than that.
No question.
It's very hard to get better than that. I love the romance between Aladdin and Jasmine. I think my biggest problem with this film is I had so many questions that were unanswered. Like, what is the blue diamond for? Except it just seems to be a MacGuffin in the film, and that seems to be the only purpose it has. Why doesn't Jafar just use his staff to hypnotize the Sultan into making him the Sultan if he has that power already, or just hypnotize Jasmine with it to make her fall in love with him? He would save himself a lot of trouble. Does it only work on the Sultan? Why does it only work on the Sultan? If so, why doesn't Iago use his impressions ability more often? I don't know. That's
wow. You just opened up a lot of questions there.
Exactly.
I know. Good questions.
But hey, anything I could do to hear Robin Williams and Gilbert Gottfried in the same movie, I love that.
And it's just such a likable.
So much fun.
It's a likable film.
Yep.
I think guys especially would like it. Like, I think when they made this movie, it was kind of, I guess, catered toward quote unquote boys because the others were more the princess were more the main character, and here we're having, I guess he becomes a prince. You can call him a prince, Aladdin. But
it's kind of funny.
Fun.
Yeah.
At D23, I guess they made all of the, at a certain point, they made all of the Disney princess voice actors Disney legends.
Okay.
So Linda Larkin got made a Disney legend before Scott Weineker.
Yeah.
He's like, you're in my movie.
It's like, it's named after me. That's also, I know a lot of people, I know some people complain, they're like, oh, Jasmine doesn't have a big part, or she should have more of a part. I was like, yeah, but look, the movie's called Aladdin. Like, he's the main character. Movie. It's his movie. Everyone else is second.
And she has like a pretty big part.
Yeah, I think she's got a great part, personally. Yeah.
But when they made the sequel, oh no, we're gonna, give her a better part because, this one didn't, apparently.
Well,
not the sequel, remake, sorry.
What do you have at 4?
4, The Great Mouse Detective.
Clements and Musker.
Yes, Clements and Musker. It's I'm a big fan of mysteries. I'm a big fan of Sherlock Holmes. So you give me a mouse-themed Sherlock Holmes, I mean, you got my money right there. And throw in Vincent Price.
Yeah, exactly, right there, right? Yeah.
Exactly. Well, what else can go wrong? Like, this is just a fun adventure. It's a mystery. It's Sherlock Holmes. It's just Vincent Price, like I said. The only thing I probably don't like the bar song. That's probably the only thing. But besides that, I got this movie.
Mark, do you know Rachel's story about that scene?
No.
Rachel, please. Sorry, I don't. I love this story so much.
So when I watched it for the Disney Canon that first time, I was like, what is this scene? I had never seen it before. And my dad is like a huge Sherlock Holmes person.
Yeah.
And so we had watched it and the Jeremy Brett series and, so many different things over the years. And I was just like, what is this scene? So then I call my mom and I'm like, Mom, what is this scene? And she was like, oh yeah, I always skipped over that.
Yeah.
Every time we watched it.
Yeah, my parents would. They I don't think they saw this movie, but they would have done the same thing.
Yeah, it's not kid friendly. Like, what in the world is this?
Sometimes now I skip the scene.
Solid movie.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really good.
It's a really solid movie, though.
Yeah,
I think it's supremely entertaining.
Yeah, and it's the great mystery of like, why weren't there sequels of it?
No, yeah,
Could have
this I
just
would like
had
a
more
sequel to.
cases, like of all of the movies to make sequels of. It was the obvious one. Like,
I would have loved a
It
sequel to
was
this.
so great.
Even if it was a
Oh,
bad
me
sequel, it still
too.
would have been good.
yeah, it's a mystery. It
Yeah.
really is. Okay, what do you have at
Well, and
3?
Sherlock Holmes, as you
Yeah.
said, you just, it's so fun.
For
So fun.
real.
Even though they live in Sherlock Holmes's house, apparently.
Yeah. Like there's just so many stories that they could have told. But what do you
Yeah.
have at 3?
3 is, I mean, it's just a perfect film, a classic film. The Lion King. I don't know how else to praise this film. This is a film that when I hear some people say they think it's overrated, I can't understand that at all. I respect your opinion, but I really can't fathom how you're thinking this is an overrated film. This is amazing in every way. The animation, the music, the songs, the characters and the voice actors, the romance. Like I don't know what how it's a classic for a reason. But of course, we needed that live action remake because,
Oh my
you know,
gosh.
we need
Live
to make it
action,
better.
quote unquote.
Live action, quote unquote.
Photorealistic CGI.
Sorry, yes, that's what
So
it's called.
terrible. But yeah, I know, I completely agree. And you promised you'd always be there, but you're not. And that whole scene just gets me every time. It gets me every time.
Oh, it slays me. I love The Lion King too. It is. I never tire of it. I just think it's the best film. So great.
So what do you have in number 2?
This is probably the most shocking or unique one, I think. This is a film that I think is very underseen. But I feel a lot of people who see it generally do like it a lot. But it's Treasure Planet. I think this is an epic adaptation of Treasure Island. If you wanted to put Treasure Island in an animated version in space, this is the film I was expecting to get. The animation, I think, is excellent. The character designs and locations are excellent. I love Lon John Silver is my favorite pirate character in fiction, hands down. So, and I especially love how he's portrayed in this version. I love his relationship with Jim Hawkins, that father-son relationship. My only complaint really is Ben. I think at one time Ben was my most annoying Disney character ever. On rewatch, he wasn't as annoying as I remembered him, but he's still annoying.
Yeah,
that might be the only thing. But I mean,
this is Clemens and Musker, their big dream. This was their big. They wanted it, fought for it for like 15 years to make this movie.
I wish it was more of a hit.
Yeah. It was. It's surprising. What did they release at the same time as Harry Potter or something like that?
Oh yeah, I guess in
There
that
was like
era,
a big
2002.
release.
It was. Yeah, I can't remember what it was up against, but yeah, it had the studio had no faith in it. And,
was it Lord of the Rings? Maybe
it was something like that.
No,
Yeah,
like a big film.
It was something like that. It was that Winnie the Pooh remake that got put up, I think, against the same weekend as the Harry Potter,
against Harry Potter films.
But still, I was surprised, Mark, that you had this film so high. Not that I dislike it, because there's so much I like about Treasure Planet. But I think there's some flaws to it, but anyway, I love it. I love where you've placed it, and I think, I'm so glad it's got a champion in you.
I surprised myself when I was doing this ranking, and as I kept, how I do the ranking is like I compare the film I just watched to to the bottom, and then keep working up. And as it kept going up, I was like, wow, do I really like this much? And do I like it more than Lion King? Oh my gosh, I think I do. And it's like, wow, I didn't expect for this to be my second favorite ever. So that shocked me.
I think it's great. All right. Well, what's your number 1?
Well, I don't think this is anyone's surprise anyone. I mean, it's Beauty and the Beast. What can I say that hasn't been said? This is a perfect film. Amazing animation, amazing story, amazing romance, amazing characters, amazing songs, amazing voice cast. I don't know. Like, if I could live a movie, it would be this movie. If a movie could become my friend for life, it would be this. Great villain, beauty. I don't know. It's perfect.
We agree. I think it's the top of our list as well. So
I can't see Disney ever making another film that's gonna top Beauty and the Beast on my list.
Yeah. I mean, and just the whole message, beauty is found within, and that
I think it gives us guys hope.
Gives all of us hope.
I know, right?
But yeah, it's one of the finest films ever made, not even just animation or Disney.
No, yeah, it got nominated for Best Picture at the Oscars for a
First
reason.
one.
Yeah. Oh
Yeah.
yeah.
This is back in the
It's
day for when there wasn't an animated category.
And there was only 5 nominees too
Correct.
for Best Picture.
So that's saying something.
yeah,
Mhm.
it was well deserved, and it's such just a it's a perfect film.
So that is your top 10. So much fun. This was a delight to have you on. Thank you so much.
No,
for
it's a
coming
delight
and
for me.
talking
Thank
with
you,
us
Mark.
and staying up late. We really appreciate it.
I appreciate
And
that. I love talking about my rankings with anybody.
if people want to read your reviews and your posts, how do they do that?
Yeah, so I got 2 blogs. You can check out my animation stuff at the Animation Commendation at theanimationcommendation.com. I have movie reviews, top 13 lists, and I do my own game show there. Who Wants to Be a Millionaire Animation Edition,
Yeah.
which both Rachel and Stanford have been on multiple times, so you can check that out. And my other blog is My Live Action Disney Project at myliveactiondisneyproject.com, where I'm trying to watch every theatrically released Disney film ever made. Yeah, that's still going on. So you can just keep following me there. Thanks.
Very good. Very good. And Stanford, where can people find you?
Online, I'm at moviespastandpresent.com. Find me on Instagram too at moviespap.
Great. And you can find me at Rachel's Reviews, all over social media, iTunes, YouTube, and on Rotten Tomatoes. So check that out. Also, you can follow us on Twitter at Talking Disney. And if you are listening on iTunes, please leave your ratings and reviews. We sure appreciate that. And if you are listening on YouTube, please give the video a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. And you can check out all of our Talking Disney episodes. We really appreciate that. I'll have the playlist in the description. And then we have the Patreon group, which is the best way you can support what we're doing. And I sure appreciate the patrons and try to give as many perks as possible. And we have the merch store. You can hashtag animation junkie and I'm an animation girl shirts. So take a look at that. And thanks again, Mark. We really appreciate it. And we'll talk to y'all later. Bye.